Hey everyone, and welcome, and thanks for being in the live chats early. Sorry I'm a little bit late today. The reason I rescheduled is I've been over on Deep Dive True Crime by Mentour Lawyer's page, and he has some new interrogations up. I've been over there for a couple of hours though, so I'm running out of time, so I had to go live, and I'll have to watch the rest of his on replay later on, which is fine. So whether you're here live or you're part of the replay crew, welcome, welcome, welcome. If you recall, we went through pretty much piece by piece the police interview of Wendi Adelson over the last 10 episodes. And as promised and by popular demand, I'm going to, with Deep Dive's permission, use his video of the Jeffrey LaCasse police interviews, and there were 3. So we're going to start at the beginning. And I just want to say, whether Jeffrey LaCasse is your hero or you have a more critical view of how he came to the police and why, it doesn't matter. We all are entitled to our opinions. And people do weird things, and no one is perfect, and not Jeffrey, not anyone. But I personally don't tend to hero worship people, but I do appreciate, and we definitely appreciate what he brought to the table. And so we're going to get into it right now. And let me make sure my volume is all the way up for you. And this is Jeffrey LaCasse. I will pause. Oh, and by the way, hi to Katie. Katie cannot make it. She's got a house full of kids that have had the flu, and they're still dealing with the holidays and all those things. So she decided she wasn't going to join this week after all. No problem, but she'll be back the first of the year. So let's see. Let me know if you can hear this.
Go through all that in my head. I come to the conclusion, as you said a minute ago, that she was at least aware this was going to happen, and I think probably involved in it.
Okay, so that first little segment that Mentour Lawyer put up, that was from Jeffrey's last interview, okay? So now we're heading into the very first interview. Just so you know, that might be a little confusing. That was his 2015, I believe, March 25th. It was just a small clip where he came in, he spoke to Detective Isom and, just said it was bothering him, I think. And so that little section there was from the 2015. So now we're going to get into the first interview. And yay! Hi, Helen. Hi, Go Georgia. I'm so glad you can hear. Okay, so let's get to it. And by the way, if you want me to pause on anything, just type in pause, and I will do that. Just like we do with Katie.
All right, Mr. LaCasse, I appreciate you coming in and talking with me here. Like I said, we're still in the preliminary stages of this investigation.
Yeah.
Your name did come up,
of course.
Because you were associated at some point with Wendi,
of course,
which is his ex-wife, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So basically just I appreciate you coming in.
Sure.
I want to ask you some questions, kind of figure out where you were, if you've heard anything, if you have any information that would be helpful to us.
Yeah.
Just kind of run that whole gamut. Okay, so
Can I ask one question before you get started? Is this?
I'm sorry.
Is this on the record as I give you this?
Yes,
statement?
it's on the record.
Is there any opportunity to talk off the record? That's not possible.
No, it's possible.
Okay, we do on the record first, and I have a couple theoretical things that I want to be quoted on. But
yeah.
Okay.
Is that Windrush Village?
It is.
Apartment 41.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like the neighborhood over there?
It's cheap. It's $500 a month. I'm saving for a house. So.
Oh, okay. You got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I used to live right over there off of Claremont.
Yeah, sure.
Which is right there across the road.
That's nice house over there.
Well, like you said, it's kind of cheap over there.
Yeah.
That's where I first moved when I got out of college. But
Gotcha.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Do you have any contact numbers that I can reach you at? Should I need to talk to you later?
Sure.
I think I talked to you on a 294 number.
That's the number. That's the only number I have.
That's your number.
Yeah.
Okay, I got that one. Just tell me a little bit about yourself as far as your background and stuff like that, and kind of what you and Wendi.
Yeah, absolutely. actually got my PhD here at Florida State from 2000 2008.
Okay.
Graduated from FSU, went to Arizona for 5 years. This is my first year back. So I met Wendi maybe a month after I got back. Met her in September of 2013.
Okay.
We were set up on a date by a mutual friend I work with.
Hi, lady.
Talked to Jane. I know you've met Jane. So.
I haven't.
Oh, you have someone met Jane. She was in here when Wendi did her long 9-hour day.
So Jeffrey is already aware that Jane was with Wendi at Wendi's long interview a couple days earlier. And he also mentions that he was aware of that. Sorry, I'm distracted. And welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Yes. So that would be our mutual friend Jane, who introduced Wendi to Jeffrey, who brought up Jeffrey's name. Actually, Jane actually brought up Jeffrey's name at Wendi's interview. Interestingly.
Okay, and I take it you've talked to somebody about that because you know about it.
I talked to Jane for 5 minutes. I've been out of town.
Okay.
And Wendi and I are estranged at the moment, so it's pretty bad timing in terms of that. So
I'll say
that as I give you the tail end of it.
Sure.
So we started dating in September. Did it all through the fall.
Okay.
Wasn't serious back then. She was dating other people as well. Came back from Christmas break, had a conversation, decided to date more seriously. And by March 1, we're a couple, we're girlfriend, boyfriend.
By March of 2014?
Yeah. And then spent a lot of time with Wendi. I don't think anybody's been with Wendi more than me the last 6 months.
Okay.
She has 2 kids. I've been over there, I'd say 80 or 90% of the nights I'm over there. And every single night that she doesn't have the kids, with maybe just 1 or 2 exceptions, if she's in town, I've slept over. So I spent a lot of time with her. We had some problems.
Where's that at?
So I just want to be clear about something here that Jeffrey wants to be clear about. He's making it known how much time he has spent with Wendi. It's important for him. Interestingly, he's not distancing himself from her. Just, I thought that was a really interesting point, but he's been very open about how close they were.
That's 3303 Aqua Ridge Way in Corn. Always at our house, never at mine. I got a shitty apartment, as you know.
Hi, Judy.
We ran into some problems in May and June. Started fighting.
And I'm not here to get into your personal life.
Yeah, but I think it may better. Go ahead.
But given the severity of this incident,
Yes.
I mean, I am going to pry a little bit. I hope you
Try
don't
as
get
much as
offended
you
by that.
I'm not.
So again, that's why I made that point. Okay, he's allowing them to pry. He's very open. We've seen many interrogations, if you're into this kind of thing like I am, where somebody might come in, like if it were me and this happened with my ex or my just got put on hold Monday boyfriend, I'd be like, yeah, we're done. Yeah, it was a rocky relationship. I spent a lot of time with her, but it was never really good, right? That's called distancing yourself. But no, he's embracing that he was tight with Wendi. You might want to guess why he's doing that.
Offended.
Ultimately, I mean, what our goal is to find out who did this and bring them to justice.
I get it. I get it.
So
anything you need to ask. That helps me because I don't want to volunteer my BS if it's not useful to you. So tell me what's useful to you. If anything you want.
Yeah, and with that, I'll just tell me everything, and I'll write down what's useful and discard the rest.
Okay.
So what kind of problems were you getting into in May and June? Was it?
Yeah. Jeez, this is gonna be public. This is fucked up.
Wait, what was that?
I said if this goes public, it's just I know how this works.
It probably won't.
Okay.
What was that about?
I was just same thing. I was just trying to say, look, just forgive him, forget him. Both of us will move on here, you know? But she wanted me to just roll over, and so I'm too stubborn. Didn't trust her.
Hey, Harley D. And I just want to pause and bring out the emphasis here that he's already aware that this is possibly going to go public. That's interesting, isn't it? That's some foresight. He must have had a lot of time to think, right? Think this through, maybe even talk to a lawyer, on which I would definitely do. That's not a criticism in any way. But it's just kind of interesting that he's already talking about how this is going to go public. This is like, we're in 5 minutes only here.
It's damage beyond repair, probably. I was in love with this girl, man, so it was hard. I've been with the kids, like a co-parent, basically. It was really rough.
How old are the kids?
3 and 4. Yeah, Ben and Lincoln.
And also, I just want to point this out for what it's worth. He refers to himself as a co-parent with Wendi. Dan is their father. He lives in town, and they have, he has them half of the time. So I find this very interesting. Why do you think that is?
So the next night, and by the way, while she's in South Florida, she is completely miserable. She gets depressed, she gets anxious, and she's got her baggage. But I never, even though we didn't have much contact, I never heard her as bad as she was this trip to South Florida. I mean, this blew up her world.
And how do you know she was in a bad place?
Just because when we talked, she was just.
So she did call you like.
Yeah. 14 days, I got 3 phone calls.
When did you contact Jane?
Contacted Jane on Saturday when I was emailed that Danny had been shot. I called Jane and I said, hey, I don't know if I should contact Wendi or not. This seems like this is way more important than a stupid no contact email. And she said, yeah, just email, just text her. And I sent her just a nice text saying, you know, I care a lot about you and the kids. If you need anything, I know we're in a strange place, but if you need anything, please let me know. I'm always here, you know.
Okay, so he's again, if you can't hear, if you're not familiar with this is kind of important. He is saying that the no contact email on Monday was stupid. And he's also pointing out that this trip to Florida for Wendi was particularly stressful for her. Hey, everyone. Hey, Judy. Thanks for being here. I agree. Go, Georgia. I think co-parenting is pretty presumptive, and we're going to get more into some of the other things. I don't know if you caught in this interrogation. There's a lot in here that we might have forgotten about. So it's interesting.
She didn't even text back.
When was that?
That was Saturday.
Hi, Carol.
Well, I mean, she's got a lot on her mind right now.
She does, but the thing was, she's texting with Jane. She's calling other mutual friends. She's in touch with lots of other people.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah.
And this may be too messy for her.
Yeah.
But I'm not trying to.
I wouldn't take that personally.
No, I'm not.
At this point.
No, I'm not. I know she's in a mess. I sent her a book for little kids about bereavement from Amazon, and that'd be the last contact I have. So,
Right. You sent a text on Saturday
2
to
p.m.
her.
So again, he's saying that he's aware through Jane that, and probably other friends, that Wendi is talking to all of her friends, but not him. And he's being a gentleman about it. He's like, yeah, I'm not this focused, but that must have really hurt. I mean, that must have been super hard to have this happen. And if he cared about her, to know that she was in the middle of this, and then have gotten the no contact order and then just be shut out like this after he's a co-parent. So it's an interesting perspective.
It went unanswered.
Yep. And then I'm on the phone with Jane 5 minutes later, and Jane's like, oh, I'm getting a text from Wendi. So I know she was around, you know.
And her phone was working.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the
Do you know if she's dating anyone else?
I'm going to have to speculate a little bit.
Okay. That's fine. Like I said, we're investigating any and all leads.
So if you're looking for a potential love triangle, if that's the issue, like, you know, someone that would.
We're still,
Yeah.
we're still trying
Yeah.
to figure all this out.
Yeah. It's weird because I don't want to sound like just like the jealous boyfriend, you know what I mean?
We're taking all that into consideration
Okay,
too.
fine.
And I mean,
Okay. There's going to be a lot of men that are enamored of Wendi, that are really into Wendi and feel protective over Wendi, and there's a few of them. Now, I don't know which of these guys she's going to say, oh, that's just a friend, and that's true. I don't know. But I'm, skeptical.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
You say she can kind of put men under her spell.
Absolutely.
For lack of a better term.
No, it's true. It's true. I was caught, yeah.
Who's the guy that is like totally that guy, just out of sorts, not himself, would do anything for her?
See, I don't think it's.
Do you think there's anybody like that out there?
Well, I wonder. You guys would have access to find out that. I've always suspected there's a guy in South Florida because not getting my phone calls returned, all this kind of stuff. And she goes to South Florida a lot.
Okay.
And there's a weird pattern of behavior. And so my suspicion has always been that there was a guy in South Florida. I wouldn't know who that was.
So he's giving the detective here, and this is not Detective Isom, it's the other one whose name I forgot. I do apologize. Some ideas. He's saying, look, she had a weird pattern of behavior when she went down to Florida, and he's going to get into this a little bit more in the near future, and in future interviews. And he's saying he suspected she had a guy down in South Florida as well. And maybe that might be somebody you want to look at. Officer Hale, thank you. That's right. Thank you.
All right. Can you tell me where you were, like, up to and immediately after Friday?
Yeah, absolutely. Thursday night, I was very upset about all this, and I was going to Tennessee on Friday or Saturday. I had big plans. I called my friend and said, I'm really upset. He said, get in your car and drive. So Thursday at 7-ish, I just started driving north on 319 to get to 75. I drove probably halfway to Tennessee, stayed in a suburb of Atlanta Thursday night. Friday, I drove to Tennessee, Harrogate, Tennessee. And I just got back.
So when you drove, what'd you drive? Your vehicle?
My car, my 2004 Nissan Sentra.
And you said you stopped in the suburb of Atlanta?
Mm-hmm.
Where was that?
Can't remember. I stayed at a really crappy Days Inn, maybe 20 miles south of Atlanta.
$20 miles south of Atlanta.
Yeah, roughly. I could pull up a credit card receipt if you really need to know.
Pay with a credit card?
Yeah. Use my credit card on the whole trip. And I stayed with a very close friend up there and his wife. So I stayed at their house.
Okay. Okay, so if you just let me get a timeline
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
So Thursday you started driving. You drove up to roughly Atlanta.
Yeah, about 11:30 I pulled over. Yeah, it's getting tired.
All right, what time did you get up and leave?
Oh, I left at 9 a.m.
Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause because there's been a couple comments here. Lady Cymbeline, he sent the Amazon book. He probably, or I forgot, I've already, see, my memory is terrible. I can't remember. He did say that. I think he said it was Saturday. Let's see, today is the 21st in here. So Saturday would be the 19th. So it may have been that he would have heard the news and been thinking, how can I be helpful? I mean, and then maybe ordered the Amazon book after learning. But that's I mean, again, many of these things we're just guessing on. And then Jimbo made a point. Why would he call a lawyer but not have one with him? Well, I mean, that's possible. That's possible that he might, and the lawyer might have said, hey, just, usually you'd want to have a lawyer with you, but especially if you're innocent.
Couldn't sleep that night. I was upset about Wendi. So I probably was out watching TV till 2:30 and I got up at 8:15 and I took a shower, got out of there at 9.
What time did you check out? 9?
didn't check out. Just one of those crappy food bag hotels. Just got in my car. And I'm in Tennessee by 2:30.
And then when did you start coming back?
I left Sunday at about 10:30. Stopped in Kennesaw, Georgia to stay the night with a friend, and just got back.
I talked to my boss as far as whatever you wanted to talk about off the record.
Yeah.
And she gave me the answer that I kind of expected she would. And ultimately, it depends on what it is you're going to say. Because if it's something that's instrumental to the investigation, it can't really be off the record because, I mean, we're trying to solve a guy's homicide here.
I know. It's hearsay. It's tertiary hearsay. I don't know if that's useful to you.
Yeah.
I tell you something, somebody told me, somebody else told me.
Yeah, I mean, and you'd have to tell me what it was, and I would have to say, okay, is this something that can be excluded from the report, or is it something that's inculpatory? Is it something that...
Maybe I can just make it simpler than that. Maybe I can just say, I would be investigating Charlie Adelson.
Bam.
Okay.
Maybe it's that simple.
What makes you say that?
I just want to pause here and let this sink in. We are 12.5 minutes into this interview, maybe 12 because of the intro. He speculated about a boyfriend in Miami, and now he's just saying flat out, I will be investigating. That's a strong statement. I would be investigating Charlie Adelson. So he knew what was up.
And again, and here's another thing. We're talking to a lot of people here.
Sure you are.
And, you know, you're just telling us what you think.
Sure.
And everybody else is doing the same
Of
thing.
course.
And that's
right.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
What we're trying to do is just get all the puzzle pieces before we start trying to put the puzzle together.
Yeah.
We're still in the stages of getting all the pieces.
I got you.
So
Yeah.
why do you think it would be pertinent for us to investigate?
Now I am using Mentour Lawyer's video. I did not put that picture up. Just saying I would keep Jeffrey's up.
Charlie.
He's very angry about Danny. And if you met, I know he's down there, you can't get him in front of you, but you're, experienced investigator. If you got in front of this guy, he'd set off your radar, set off mine. I used to do juvenile justice, I used to do forensic psychiatry. He set off my radar a little bit. He's a weird guy. Strange guy. He's a conduct disorder kid.
Okay. He's saying he set off his radar. He's a weird guy. And he's telling the investigator that Charlie Adelson was a conduct disorder kid or child. That means as a child, he had problems with conduct disorder. I did look this up. I'm not going to go into it right now. I'm by no means a specialist in any of these things. But of course, Jeffrey would have known what that meant as a psychology expert. And I looked up what can cause conduct disorder, and I kind of rolled through what we know publicly about Charlie Adelson. And one of the things that really stood out to me is it can be relational family issues as well as genetics, but there are other reasons too. So I'm not sure if everybody knew that Jeffrey brought out, he knew enough about this family and he knew enough about Charlie that he knew that as a child, he was a conduct disorder kid.
And he hates Danny. And see if I can put it a little vaguely, or not, but just enough to be useful here.
Let's not put it vague. Let's go with what you know specifically.
Wendi had reported to me that Charlie had considered all the options possible to take care of this problem. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
And when she said it,
when did she disclose this to you?
I don't remember when, but she said it was chilling because she said, "Can I tell you something confidentially?" And I said, "Sure." She said,
now something just as far as if we're looking at whether something is a truthful statement or not, this seems very truthful to me because as he's reenacting Wendi talking to him and he's saying, "Can I tell you something confidential?" He lowers his voice the way she probably lowered hers or the way he perceived it. So this is an indication, in my opinion, of course, this is just our opinions, right? that he is telling the truth. Can I tell you something confidential? Not, well, she told me something that was confidential. Very different. So he's telling the story and it seems very real.
I think Charlie kind of looked into some options, like literally saw how and why and how you would do this if you did it. I think this was last summer when she had a petition to relocate denied. That family wants her back there so bad.
Again, that family wants her back there so bad, as if he's feeling it. And this is obviously not a secret, but he is definitely coming off as somebody very legitimate and telling the truth as he's telling this story or these facts to the investigator. And he did not hold back. He was right in there. He probably had time to think about it on his way home. And like I said, maybe he had a time to even talk to some people about it, maybe even a lawyer.
This is when she disclosed this to you, was last summer?
No. This is when
when
Charlie had been examining all the options.
Okay.
He's a very successful dentist, but he reeks of antisocial behavior. Now, I could be 100% wrong, but I wouldn't want to miss that if I was investigating it. He's got a close friend who's a ex-special forces guy, like a Navy SEAL or something. He hangs out with all the time.
Okay, so again, he's saying he reeks of antisocial behavior. Now, a police officer might be like, well, you don't sound like the guy, but he is laying it out from his perspective as a psychology expert. So we have that. Oh, thank you for liking and subscribing. I appreciate you guys so much. It's a great community. Thank you.
What did she say to you specifically? I mean, when you say all options.
She said, Charlie, I can't remember exactly, but it had something to do with the amount of money it would cost to have someone killed.
And what did she say?
Something like Charlie looked into how much it would cost to have someone killed. Something like that. Some statement like that. I can't remember.
Did she keep?
Again, when he said, what exactly did she say? You can tell he's very truthful and he's trying to recall. And he's like, he said Charlie, and then he didn't even finish his name. He's trying to remember. And then he says, I can't tell you exactly. So he's being very truthful about what he actually heard and what he can recall.
Give you a dollar amount? Did she?
But that's the other thing. He's a dentist, but he's an independent businessman. He has a bunch of practices, and he's a Ferrari. I think he's a millionaire, all this kind of stuff. So he has a lot of resources. And wow, this might screw them. From me talking to him myself in the hot tub one time, from a few things Wendi said.
When was this?
March 15th-ish. I was there for the one day with him. I stayed at his house.
Of this year?
Yes. Wendi and him were talking. I'm just listening. I just met him an hour earlier. We're sitting in the hot tub having a beer. It's a really nice house. And I guess this is what occurred.
Yeah, and go Georgia. I mean, yeah, he also brought up he's just trying to come up with some ideas like what happened here. These are the things I noticed. Wendi had brought up Jeff being in the military, and now Jeff is saying Charlie links to military friend. Yeah, so he mentioned that he was a special forces guy, which, has a certain image associated with it. So, yeah. And Jimbo, we're not really speculating his personal life. We're interested in what he's saying here. So, but thank you for your comment.
Was anybody else in the hot tub with you guys?
Not during this part of the conversation. Another guy, his roommate came in eventually, and then just turned to talk about girls and stuff like that. But and I'm not trying to play cop here, but I do know one thing you'd be looking for is a lump sum of money moving around and some kind of crazy stuff happen. And I think there's a lot of financial irregularities. I think there's a lot of tax fraud kind of stuff, of putting stuff in different people's names and moving money around, and there might be cash. I don't know exactly what, but he's not doing anything on the up and up in his finances. It was pretty clear. He was pretty open about that. So I thought about that. If you guys do look into it, I don't know that.
How the exact conversation in the hot tub go?
he was just talking about, I put that in dad's name, I put that in mom's name, and it was just clear that.
Hiding resources,
Yeah.
monetary resources.
Yeah. So if you have to do an investigation, that's something you guys should know, because I think there's a lot of, I don't know if it's illegal, but I know there's a lot of, he plays the system, This guy's so inappropriate. We're sitting, please don't write this down. He's so inappropriate. We're sitting in the hot tub, and he starts talking about sex acts with his girlfriend that he did to punish her for bad behavior in front of his sister. I'm like, and I didn't know what to do. I just met him, pretended with my girlfriend. This is just so weird, It's like this guy's, his social radar is way off. His sense of right or wrong, just norms is just off. He set off my radar. Now, I don't know if he did this. If you're looking at somebody, don't miss him.
These folks.
And I can also see him doing this without ever telling Wendi he didn't do it. I can see Wendi being innocent, puzzled, and Charlie did. I can totally see that scenario. He's very protective of her. I think that's more likely than romantic. All the romantic couplings are with highly educated, high elite status men.
You don't want to throw that away.
Who've got a lot to lose. I mean, she doesn't slum that I know of at all. She doesn't.
Well, I mean, this Charlie guy's millionaire by your own admission. So
Yes. Well, he is. He's got this buddy.
He's got a lot to lose.
He does. He's also really cocky and arrogant and narcissistic. So, I wish you had him in front of you, because I think he'd set off your alarm bells. That doesn't mean he did it, but he's aggressive. He's argumentative. He's focused on himself completely. He's got 3 girlfriends at a time, which some people do that, I know, but no qualms about it,
So you think he may be good for it?
Assuming this isn't a botched burglary or something like that, he's the first. Charlie popped into my head within 20 seconds of hearing this.
Charlie popped in my head within 20 seconds of hearing this. That's profound.
I mean, there's all kinds just to give you some context that may be helpful. Last summer, when they were trying to figure out how to manipulate this divorce or work the divorce, I guess, so they could get, it's a bad fight, all this kind of stuff. They were talking about Wendi converting the kids to Christianity just to annoy Danny. I mean, this has been a pitched battle, I mean, we fed the kids bacon regularly. He tries to keep them kosher. There's all kinds of passive aggressive shit going on here, So the family is, it's important that you know this, actually, man. The family is so unhealthily enmeshed, so completely enmeshed, that Wendi is not really an adult. When she drives to South Florida, every single time those 2 parents drive up here and drive with her down. They don't trust her to drive from Tallahassee to Miami. They're just, it's not a normal family. It's not like she's a 35-year-old woman that has 2 kids and come down to see us. It's complete enmeshment. It's a matter of they've infantilized her. She's considered the baby still. She's 35 years old. Charlie protects her.
And he uses the term infantilizing with Wendi, that the family infantilizes her. Again, this is somebody who's been around the family and was in a position to know. And he's, of course, using professional terminology, which is why we had that little resume up there with Mentour Lawyer put that in. And by the way, just take note, it's not Jeffrey saying, well, I'm an expert on this and I'm an expert on this. He's just telling it like it is from his perspective.
So I don't know if this could be our fantasy. I mean, you guys are hearing all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
I hope to God it wasn't Charlie, honestly, but that's what popped into my head. So.
Right. Okay.
I'm so sorry.
You're okay.
I got stuff happening.
I just spit it all out. So
Did you really? Okay. All right. Thank you. Who did it?
He's thinking, her brother Charlie could be a viable suspect. I mean, I don't know if we ruled him out or not.
Nobody's ruled out.
I don't think Charlie would have done it, by the way. But he's a real rich guy. But he's got friends on both sides of the tracks, and he's real street smart. He's always trading and stuff like that. And got this buddy that's in the special forces, and so he's like a dentist, but he's hanging out with guys that different social class actually, and kind of antisocial, impulsive, angry, fiercely protective of Wendi. And I've heard him say, I'd like to kill that motherfucker. I mean, I've heard him say that so many times. Now, I've said that out loud too, and I didn't do it, but something different about Charlie. He reminds me of like an antisocial.
Charlie's an older brother.
Yeah.
She's the baby girl.
She's the baby girl.
Is Charlie older or younger than this one up in Albany?
She's just a baby.
He's the middle kid, I think.
Charlie is?
Yeah. If you had him in front of you, he'd set off your alarm bells.
Okay.
Doesn't mean he did it, but.
No, I know that, but why? Okay, all right. So you're basically saying out of, what's his name up in Albany?
Yeah, Rob, no way.
He's the oldest?
Yeah, he's the oldest, yeah.
Out of Charlie, mom, dad, who else is there?
It's just Charlie, mom, dad. Down there, that's
okay.
it. That's it.
All right, out of those three, you're saying Charlie would be the most volatile to do something? What would he do?
He'd get his buddy in the special forces to do this, or he'd get some seedy guys down in the Cuban neighborhood or something like that. That's what he would do. Something like that.
He wasn't far off, was he? He'd get some, either the special forces guy or some seedy guys down in another neighborhood. And that's not far away from what actually is alleged to have happened.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing I told him was that Wendi had told me that he had looked into how much it would cost last summer.
Wendi told you that?
She did.
That Charlie had looked into how much it would cost. So
She said it in a dead serious, chilling, uncomfortable kind of way. Not like I joke around. I like to kill Dan Markell. I was sick of his shit. That's different. You know, this was like, she said confidentially.
okay, you and her one-on-one?
One-on-one, late at night, and
When you supposed to have that?
it was late at night, and she told me that. So, it was last summer when her petition to relocate was about to be denied.
Oh, because she wanted to take the kids out?
Well, they want her down there so bad. The family's so enmeshed, so tight, so unhealthy. She's like the baby. So if you met Charlie, he's an unusual guy.
Okay,
No.
so if you, just so I understand and I don't misinterpret,
Yeah.
what exactly, how did she say it and what did she exactly say?
Yeah, and I'm pulling it from memory, but something like I said, we're also talking about us, because I was like, would you ever leave under any circumstances? Yeah, I know you don't love it here. Am I going to be dating you for 2 years and you just move? She's like, I can't because of Danny. And she said, yeah, as a matter of fact, something about it would be convenient if Danny wasn't around anymore, but what's usually wanting to happen to him or something like that. She said, but Charlie actually looked into like how that would be done and how much it would cost. She might have said, I think, Charlie. I don't remember, but it was chilling. In the moment, I was like, my stomach flipped. I was like, whoa.
The crux of the statement is my brother Charlie has looked into how much it would cost to
take care of somebody. Yeah.
take care of somebody.
This guy has very little empathy. He's just a weird guy.
Okay.
I'm not saying he did. I'm just saying, if you're looking at somebody, you can't miss Charlie.
Okay.
I think that's more likely than a romantic thing.
Well, that's you.
Yeah, it's not me.
The other guy's gone. Zach, wherever
He's gone.
he's gone to.
And by the way, make sure that she saw Zach once a week for 20 minutes of sex. I don't know the relationship. I don't think he gives a shit about Wendy, so I don't know.
Yeah. Sorry. Size. Yeah. What? I don't have time for her. I said, great. Okay. Yeah. Thanks, buddy. Thanks.
Before I forget, the other thing is that I didn't know about Zach for 9 months, and I was with boyfriend for 6. So I've always, I was telling him, I've always suspected there's a guy in South Florida I would know about. I mean, that's just a paranoid boyfriend.
I wouldn't believe Wendi when she says, I'm with Jeff. I would, yeah, you got to start the ground zero. She lies. I mean, there's been a lot of men since September. Over me.
So Jeffrey is saying here that Wendi has had a lot of boyfriends and that she lies As far as not having an attorney with, the only reason I even bring that up is because I've just had it drilled into my head. It doesn't matter what it is. You would always want to have an attorney present or get advice from attorney. I get advice from attorneys all the time, not necessarily involved in any kind of legal action. So I'm not sure why that would be such a problem for some people, but that's just where we all come from different places. And yes, he probably wouldn't have, I'm just guessing he would have had enough friends even at the university to talk it over. And probably they just said, hey, just go tell him the truth if you're innocent. But usually you would want an attorney present, particularly if you're innocent. Things happen.
So I just wonder if there's a guy in South Florida. She always drops out of sight when she's down there. Phone calls not returned, voicemail.
Did you go down there?
No, she doesn't let me go. That's why I think there's a guy down there.
Okay. Did Charlie come up here?
Charlie never comes up here.
Okay, how did you meet Charlie then?
Oh, I went to Charlie. Sorry, I met Charlie one time. I went down there one time for one day. We
Okay.
were in Immokalee. We just drove over and spent an evening with them. So I spent 4 hours with Charlie.
What are you doing in Immokalee? I know where that is.
Yeah, alternative spring break for FSU kids.
Okay.
So we're helping out the farm workers and stuff.
Okay.
So we spent a night in a hot tub with Charlie, and that was it. But I've always told him, I've always suspected that, and I'm the paranoid ex-boyfriend, so right. But she goes to South Florida awful lot.
Okay.
She's always a little weird when she comes back, romantically and stuff like that. So I just always kind of suspected. So I wouldn't. Obviously, the connection is now she can go to South Florida.
Right.
I mean,
Boom. There you go. Another Jeffrey gem. Obviously, the speculation is now she can go back to South Florida. There you have it, as he's saying.
We see that part.
yeah.
Who's this Green Beret? Did you say?
And that I don't know anything about this guy. I just know that on Facebook there's a lot of pictures of him, and Wendy's told me stories about him. He's, I guess the point is that Charlie doesn't just hang out with other dentists. He hangs out with all kinds of people. So it's not like he's some snobby dentist that's not gonna hang out with this guy did 5 years in Afghanistan, so it just popped into my head. Like,
Charlie did?
No, Charlie's friend did.
Was Charlie in the military?
Nah, he's a dentist. He's a dentist. So,
Okay.
but when Charlie talks, he talks about cross section of people. I mean, he has friends all across the spectrum, including, some unsavory characters.
Let's go back to the statement that she made. I just want to clarify the stuff. She tells you, she goes, yeah, my brother, I think the phone was going off there. My brother has checked, or my brother has something along those lines, has inquired as to how much it would cost.
Something like that. I can't give you an exact quote. It might have even been, I think Charlie, here's an example. She might have said, I think Charlie might have looked into how much it costs to actually have that done. He's down there in Miami, it's not unheard of. Something like that.
All right.
It just had crossed Charlie's mind. He's bottom line. It occurred to Charlie that was one way to take care of the problem.
And he wants to help sis?
He is fiercely protective of her. He wants her back in South Florida so bad. The whole family does. She never, you guys know the background. She never wanted to be here, ever. I mean, she came here with Markel. They're supposed to be here a year and then move on. He had a job at Miami. He was an asshole, so he lost it. He said, no, go back to FSU and stay there. They're stuck here. So he's doing great. He's the Sandy Doenberg professor of law and all that stuff. When he gets a shitty job that she doesn't really like,
So I should have paused a little bit sooner. Here's where Jeffrey really just lays everything out the way we know it, really, even from the state at this point. And he does this only a couple of days after Dan's death. I think this is the same day of the memorial. I'm not sure. The 21st. That would have been, maybe would have been Monday. So the memorial has already happened. That means Wendi would have been gone already. So he really does lay everything out very quickly. Obviously not corroborated, but the theory of the case as it stands right now, he has it because he has intimate knowledge, and he's obviously, his body language is that he's pretty truthful. Of course, he has his way of expressing himself with his hands and all those things, but I do too. That doesn't mean he's lying in any way.
Like the area. She's doing her best to make it work. She hates it. Never wanted to live here. Never thought she'd live here.
This is all from her, right?
Yeah, it's all straight from her. Are you kidding me? I'm her boyfriend trying to convince her this is a great place to stay. Get a new attitude. This is a daily conversation. You know, I'm like, I love Tallahassee. Moved here on purpose. You know?
Right.
So it's a daily conversation. Like, look, it looks pretty. You know, that kind of stuff, you know?
And her whole thing is, no, I still don't
Because
like it.
I'm trying, but it's, you know, I didn't choose it.
Okay.
I didn't choose it, and that makes it hard. I heard that daily.
I didn't choose it, and that makes it hard.
And she loves Miami. She just loves it. When we're down there, she just lights up. It's a whole different thing.
Is it Miami or Fort Lauderdale?
It's Coral Springs, but it's Miami.
Okay.
It's Miami. Yeah.
So, so a daily thing is you're trying to tell her how great this area is and so forth, and she's basically putting it down, and
Yeah.
you know, I'm stuck here. My husband didn't want it or couldn't keep the job at
Yeah,
UM.
he
Was
screwed
it
up.
UM or Nova?
It was UM. Yeah, okay, yeah.
And he screwed that up. Is that?
Yeah. He was so abrasive. I'm sure you heard a lot about that. He was so abrasive that they're like, "You're a great scholar. We don't want to put up with your butt every day, so get out of here." You know?
Okay, so here's Jeffrey saying I'm not sure if he knows this because he's a professor or if it's because of what Wendi said, but that Dan was so abrasive that they didn't want him in Miami, and so they got stuck in Tallahassee. So that's an interesting take. What do you think? Do you think, I mean, we know from other accounts, even people that really love Dan, that, you know, he had a certain way about him. He'd like to argue. He thought it was interesting, and that's how he was as a person. And you know, I guess it's an acquired taste in a way. So what do you think about that? This is early on, of course. So Jeffrey would have had formed his opinion, of course, working at the university, although they weren't close. They did have some of the same friends. And then, of course, from Wendi and her family. What do you think?
He had to work pretty hard to lose that job.
Okay. Okay. What was the reason? I mean, I know that there was some type of contention, and I don't know if it was the child rearing, or do you know that?
I can tell you anything you want to know about that. I've got every legal document.
No. What did she personally tell you?
Tell me about child rearing?
Well, the reason for their divorce. How did she get to this point?
Oh, Danny was, give you a couple examples of Markel. They would drive from here to Miami as a family. Oh, this is before they had kids even, but even as a family, both. And Danny would work on his computer. He had one of those converters so he could plug your laptop in. Wendy was required to drive, and Wendy was required not. That's okay.
Sorry. Yes, sir. Say again. Okay. Do you have Couch's number? Yeah, I'm gonna have him. I'm busy right now. I'm gonna have him meet, and then I'm gonna talk to him when they're done downstairs or wherever they do the buckle. Are you already on the second floor? Okay, just get Couch. He's waiting for you. Thanks.
And Markel's rule was, you may not speak from Tallahassee to Miami.
From Tallahassee to Miami.
And she said she would be like, "Dang, I'm working." Just a total control freak, emotionally abusive, controlled the finances, just ran her shit.
Okay, so of course, Jeffrey probably didn't have evidence of this, but he was sharing what Wendi was sharing with him. And Lady Cymbeline, yeah, I think you're right that the Miami thing, I think you're right about that. I'm not 100%, but that it was that Wendi had just graduated, so she wouldn't have been able to get that second job that they wanted a job for both of them. So that sounds about right, but I can't remember 100%. If anyone has, yes, Stephen Epstein. Yes, that makes sense. I knew we heard it somewhere. Thank you, Judy.
And I don't know if he hit her or not, but I can tell you, if you just raise your voice to her like that, she flinches like she's got her ass kicked yesterday. So I've wondered about violence. I don't know. She says no, but people lie. Wendi lies a lot. So he was pretty mean to her. And as she went to get married, every friend she had was begging her, don't marry this guy. He's the biggest asshole we've ever met.
So Jeff is very free to talk about what, what names he uses about Dan, even right after he was murdered. I just found that a bit interesting, that not that he would suspect all that happened until later on, but just that he was willing to repeat basically something that may or may not have been true. So he still has the veil over his eyes at this point, and that's somewhat understandable. So Judy says it sounds like Wendi told a story to Jeff blaming it on Dan. Right. A few stories, because he has a few gems about Dan that may or may not have been true. And we have heard some of these things were not actually true. Surprise, surprised. Dan had mentioned that people were not, was it Dan who mentioned people weren't impressed with her, Judy, or was it Stephen who mentioned that people weren't impressed with Wendi's credentials in Miami? And Helen says, I remember reading that he didn't stay at the job in Miami because the university didn't want his spouse as part of the package deal, and she didn't seem to be a good fit. That sounds about right. I recall that. And Downtown Wonder, hello. If Wendi had promised to marry Jeff, we would have seen a whole different side of Jeff. Yeah. Or even had married him, because quite frankly, she was free to marry. They had been divorced a year by now. What side of Jeff do you think we would have seen? Downtown Wonder, I'm curious. And of course, this is speculation. We're interested in this because a terrible crime was committed. So, and then I mentioned Judy's comment. It was Epstein. Epstein said they weren't impressed, not Dan. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. Oh, I must have missed something from Lady Cymbeline. Yes. Okay. So, and we can't blame Jeff for operating. This is what he knew. This is what he knew about Dan, mostly from Wendi. That's how it works.
And she got caught up in the Harvard law and elitism and all this kind of stuff. And she was in a bad place. Made a bad decision, got married to a guy.
Oh, one comment. I don't know where it went, but somebody, I'm sorry to interrupt right in the middle of his sentence, but Christopher DeCoste made her sound very accomplished. She was accomplished academically. She had just graduated, though, when they got married, right? She was a young, whether it was an attorney or a professor, she was, very inexperienced at that point. So I think Christopher LaCasse did that as a technique in his interrogation. I thought it was very, I really appreciated that he was doing that. So she was accomplished in many ways academically at that point, but not yet professionally, because she was still just earning her wings. She was glad to ditch him as soon as day. Yeah. So Judy says Wendi would not have married Jeff, is what she's saying. Seems like.
I got divorced last year, so I understand.
Oh, you did?
I got married to the wrong woman too, so I get it. That's how we bonded, actually. We picked the wrong people before. So it was a bad marriage from day one. I mean, pretty much.
So he says that's how they bonded. Wendi and Jeffrey bonded because they were both recently divorced and they both picked the wrong people. But I believe what he's implying here is he thought this was the right people. This is the right person for him.
According to her, at least. By the second year, it was awful. And then having kids will fix it. People try that. So he's also an absent father. I mean, he came home 9 o'clock every night, she claims, and that would play with the kids for 10 minutes. That was it. She did everything, kind of like a house slave. And then when he went to go get divorced, he tried to get 100% custody of the kids.
How many people believe that Wendi was a house slave? Just show of hands. Curious. I'm not faulting him for saying this, but this is what he knew of what she said. But how believable really is that?
So if you read these legal documents that he's filed, they'll give, I don't know if you're better, but they give you insight into it's pretty crazy.
I haven't had the time, but I will.
Yeah, it's a lot of lunacy shines through.
But I'm sure he had his side of it too.
I'm sure he did, and well, that's what I wonder about is with all the stuff I talked about with Wendi with me. I mean, he was controlling. Well, maybe he's trying to keep his wife in control. I don't know. You know.
And Isom very appropriately says, I'm sure he had his side of it. There's always two sides or more to every situation like this, right? And Jeffrey's still kind of, he's still invested, let's just say, in believing Wendi about Dan, which is interesting. Dan's been murdered, but okay.
Right.
But you must have heard he's not. Don't want to speak ill of the dead. He wasn't well liked. It's bizarre to open up the paper and see all these comments about how a great guy he was. I know one person in my social circle.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
You're hovering around.
I'm an honorary Jew, I guess.
Okay.
I don't know what they
Okay.
call me.
Okay.
But I mean, I don't know the truth about their marriage, but I do know that it was really, really hard on Wendi. And when it got to the legal stuff, he was vicious. He was really vicious. So.
Anything? Did she ever tell you anything concerning any incidents when Danny and Charlie were together, or Danny and any other family? I mean, was it kind of like, hey, Danny, you sleep over here in the doghouse or something?
No. It was more like the family hate. This is why she didn't introduce me to her parents. She said last time it was so awkward because it went so badly because they all hated Danny. Charlie hated Danny. Her parents hated Danny.
For why?
He is in person. He is so arrogant. He is so unlikable. He would just talk down to people. He was one of these Harvard guys.
Okay.
And it was just like, when I met him in that awkward meeting, I was early. I was late. He was early, and we met for the first time. He insulted me 3-4 times in
Really?
10 sentences, just in subtle, like haughty, snobby kind of ways. Like, "Oh, are you a lawyer?" And just little comments here and there. So he was passive aggressive about it. He wasn't in your face. He wasn't yelling, but he insulted. He would just tell you, "Say you're stupid."
Okay.
I mean, that's just how he talked. He thought he should.
He's basically subtly insulting you the entire conversation.
Yeah, he did. I mean, as far as Wendi and him, he did all kinds of little things to intimidate her. I don't know if he knew he was doing it, but
I don't know if he knew he was doing it, is what he says. And we all know people like this. I actually know people who other people think are really intimidating in the way that Jeffrey is describing, but they're not intimidating to me. So I think a lot of times it's just a matter of, he's the ex-husband, I'm the new boyfriend. He's going to be sensitive. Jeff is a very sensitive guy, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way. So, but Jeff's friends have even said, hey, he didn't walk away from being an argument, or he liked to spar a little bit intellectually. So I guess that's what he's probably referring to. And I do really appreciate that he did finally say, let's not speak ill of the dead.
she was scared of him. I would go with her to him. I would go with her to functions that he was at to kind of reassure her and run interference, because she would get heart palpitations and stuff around him. And it seemed completely out of the scope of normal. I got an ex-wife. I can get in front of her. Not a big deal.
Right.
For her, it was like, will you please come with me to soccer practice or whatever it was? Oh, swim lessons 3 weeks ago. Will you come with me to swim lessons because Danny's going to be there? And she would just freak out.
Did you go?
I did go.
Was he there?
Yeah, he was there.
Was everything okay between you and him?
Well, everything was fine. We kind of moved through a phase where at first we were real friendly, shaking hands, and then we got like, hey, I'm not going to shake your hand.
Okay, so I want to ask you, if you were in the interview room here, it really isn't an interrogation, but hey, why, if this is true, what Jeff is saying, I'm not saying that Jeff's making it up, but maybe Wendi is saying something that isn't true. Do you think Wendi really was intimidated about going to see the kids play soccer and running into Dan? And why would she be that way? She was pretty assertive in initiating the divorce. I'm not saying that people don't have feelings, but why do you think that was an act, or was she really nervous about seeing Dan? And if she was nervous about seeing Dan, why would that be? Don't you think that would be interesting to know?
on different sides of this thing, that kind of thing. But it was always reasonably friendly.
She introduced you to him
She did.
as your boyfriend, your current boyfriend?
No.
Friend?
I don't remember what she said. This is Jeff, I think.
Okay.
That was a point of contention between us. She didn't call me her boyfriend until very recently. So
Oh, okay.
I think she might have had other ones. I think that might have been the issue.
Okay.
Maybe Dan Sack was also her boyfriend. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh my God, how humiliating. That poor guy. Like he's admitting it was only like a month ago. Finally, they were dating for the better part of the year, but they were serious for 3 months. And now she's actually referring to him as her boyfriend. Oh my God.
We already
Hi,
got his
Lizzie.
phone number.
Yes.
Is there anything else I just don't think it's.
He did say he was willing to give buckle if you need it or want it. Is that something you want to do?
I don't think so. I can call him back. We have his phone number.
It's taking a second.
And the guy drives in from Georgia, Tennessee, whatever, and comes straight here from what I understand, what you told me.
I didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a second here.
Hey, everyone.
I guess the thing that keeps popping up in my head is, don't write this down, but just so you know, if you're investigating, I've been shocked how easily Wendi lies to my face. I've been dating 25 years. I'm not an experienced man out there, but her and Charlie both have this sociopathic kind of thing where it doesn't seem to bug them at all. So if you had her in front of you for 9 hours.
Are her parents,
Now, Detective Isom kind of rolls over this one, but he just said something huge. I have been shocked at how Wendi can just lie to your face. He's also saying that Charlie and the entire family are very, it's very easy for them to lie. So it's still sinking in for him. And God, again, it's only a few days after Dan's murder. And hello, everyone. Thanks for joining.
from the United States?
They are first generation. I think their parents were Holocaust kind of things. So yeah. And they're weird, but I have no time imagine being involved. But they are strange people.
Right.
I mean, in 9 months of dating, they probably said 20 words.
Okay.
This is not coming up.
Okay, I'll tell you what, let's just do this.
Okay.
When you get your paper copies.
Okay.
Send them to Corey for me,
I will.
and then.
If you can give me an email address, I can send them to you.
Either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then that way.
My name and contact
That'll
number,
just-
my email's on there as well.
And all we basically are doing is we're substantiating, we do this with everybody, you're not the first in this
Of
case.
course.
We're just substantiating, this was his whereabouts according to his financial records. He was traveling, he was not in town.
Yeah.
Yes, he's her former boyfriend, but this is where he was at according to his financial records.
Of course.
So that's all we basically want to do. And it's basically, we eliminate, and then we get down to who we're really looking at.
Yeah.
You understand, it's not brain surgery or anything, but I'm trying to think of anything else I could ask you at this time, and
I'd be willing to come back. I just don't want to spend more time with Wendi. If there's anything.
Here's another thing that I typically.
I wasn't sure about what he just said right there. And I'm going to, I don't know, you guys. I'd be willing to come back. I want to spend more time with Wendi, or I don't want to spend more time with Wendi. I think, sadly, and I agree, he just wanted love in a family. He desperately wanted a family from all accounts. I'd be willing to come back. I just want to spend more time with Wendi. I thought that was a little odd, but people say weird things. It's not a big deal. All right, let me get to some of these comments because we're wrapping up. He's not wearing a tattered shirt. Okay, let's see. Lots of hey, thanks everyone for joining in. Where did I leave off? Okay, go Georgia. This is true. Isom and Jeff kind of had it figured out. The other detective wasn't exactly, and in the detectives like Detective Isom is just saying, we're just ruling people out. We just need to know where you were. Of course, they want any other information that he would be able to offer, and he was very willing to share that, which is really to everyone's benefit. But in a later interrogation, Jeffrey said flat out, I don't think the other detective understood what I was trying to say. And he just thought, passed me off as a jilted boyfriend, which of course I was. But he came back and he reiterated some of his thoughts. They're used to, working in facts, and Jeffrey was speaking in terms of, psychology and feelings and all that quite a bit. So cops don't always respond to those things. So I think that might have been a little bit of what you're saying in terms of the disconnect. But thankfully, it didn't persist, and Jeffrey became a star witness. Okay. Denise Williams in Winchester would be if she didn't turn on him. That's right. That's right. All it takes is somebody who is going to tell the truth or have grow a conscience or whatever. And again, hey, Fancy, hey, Judy. I think it was an act, and I think that you're referring to Wendi pretending to be so bothered by going to the kids' soccer game because she might run into Dan, and oh my gosh. Either that or she really bought into her own drama. Like, that can happen too. And Judy said, yeah, it was more manipulation. Jeff is a good guy. Hey, Fancy, glad you're here. I'm down in San Diego. I wish it would rain. We always miss it. Raining here in California. Sandra, hello. It's nice to see you. Hey, Sandra. Probably an act. It seemed like it. And I mean, just imagine Jeffrey be on the other side of that. Like, wow. Just over the years, coming to grips, or over the months coming to grips with what he was really, because he learned more, as we'll see in the future interviews. And it was a while back up in the comments, saying they would love to see how Jeff is doing now. We would love to see how Jeff is doing now. Oh, here it is. Yeah. And Lizzie, I'm so sorry you got busted pipes. I'm hearing that's everywhere in the United States practically. I am so sorry to hear those things. I have family in Wisconsin. Very cold. It's warming up today. I don't know. Do the pipes burst because it's warming up? Or, I mean, is it warming up and then they're bursting? I don't know anything about burst pipes, but one of my Twitter friends said he is now an expert at fixing pipes. He's helping people in the neighborhood, I think, as well as his own pipes. So no problem that you missed it. Of course, you can always replay. And I'm going to be chopping up these videos into shorter segments because I know they do run pretty long, but especially for those of us who've been with Mentour Lawyer for the last several hours. Okay, Judy, he didn't take part. Are we talking about Jeffrey? Jeffrey didn't take part in an HBO special about the case. Was that Jeffrey? And yes, I heard that there was another special coming out. I'm thinking we're talking about Jeffrey, not Stephen Epstein, on that one. So yeah, that's too bad he didn't take part. He's probably over it. I would be. Hey, go Georgia. Again, Lizzie, I'm glad you got through this part of it. I hope you don't have any more problems with freezing things. And yes, Lady Cymbeline, I think Wendi worked herself into a frenzy about seeing Dan out. She cowardly left him, and he was outsmarting her in court. She probably legit was having heart palps, but it was not for fear of abuse. It's a facade. I think that's a very interesting take. That's why I asked the question, do you think it was an act, or was she legitimately maybe even knowing what might happen in the future, working up a frenzy because she has to face him? Stephen Epstein. How did Stephen? Oh, I did not catch him. I did not hear that. So we don't want. I know some people are very sensitive about Jeff. Mr. Jimbo was on earlier. Nothing that I know about. So we don't need to demonize people. Hello all. Hello, Jennifer. Okay. Fancy said it is with Apple. Okay. That must be it's not the HBO, it's with Apple, I'm assuming is what you're saying. Okay. Sandra. Yes, justice for Dan. Love you too. Yes, we want to keep this case fresh and alive. There are certain cases that really get to me. And I want to tell you, we talked about this, about what other cases we're going to do. I've had a couple of suggestions, but the one case that got to me, since it's almost the end of the year and we talk about the previous year, what we loved or whatever, I thought the Dr. William Huso case was extremely important to Americans. And if you have a chance to binge watch a trial, I'll send you the link if you want it, because there have been some important cases this year. I feel like this case is really important because of what it shows about the family life and that kind of thing. But for the year, does anyone have a favorite case? Obviously, we loved getting the guilty verdict this year with this case, but any other favorite cases for the year? That was my really important case to me. Okay. Judy, he's not wearing a tattered shirt. He's more than a jilted boyfriend. He's more than a jilted boy. He's not wearing a tattered shirt. I'm not sure I follow what that is. Maybe somebody said something about a tattered shirt and I did not catch that. Fancy fiction. Okay. What annoys me about Steve Epstein is it makes out the watch video of Wendi together for hours, yet Isom seems to spot Wendy's game immediately. Oh, yeah. Steve Epstein said that he didn't feel like, I'm not going to even quote it. We all know what we're talking about here. Yeah, it's okay. Epstein makes out that Isom was agreeable to him. And Apple, yes, you can stream it on Apple TV. Okay. And Fancy is saying she doesn't think Steve Epstein watched all of his interviews with the police, including the one that we're going to cover here in 2015, March 2015. He came back with some bombs to drop. Lizzie, I think Jeff, I'm just assuming you mean Jeff, looks super cute here. Shame on Wendi. He does. I hope she ends up with some. Oh, okay. Okay. And the new show is going to be with Apple, and Jeff decided not to participate, I guess. Okay. Yeah, could be, Sandra. It could be. It could be. Lizzie says yes. I think that is what she's saying yes to. Should we watch the Apple program? Yeah, you have to have an Apple account if it's Apple TV. I don't know. I mean, I think some of us who are really paying attention to the nitty gritty are always going to be disappointed in a show like that. Like, we're not going to learn anything new, and they only can do so much in a compact amount of time. And they're just trying to, like Epstein or anyone else trying to sell their books. So they might have a different, it's a really hard one. Yeah, I'd be interested in anyone else going to watch it on Apple when it comes out. And when's it coming out? And Lizzie Ball, Georgia says Jeff would probably be happy to hear she thinks he's cute. Why wasn't a bump done on Wendi? Good question. Is it possible there was? And we don't know it yet. I really always hold out that maybe there's just a lot more evidence that we don't know about yet. But on the other hand, it's been over 8 years. Why aren't there more arrests if that's the case? I got you, Fancy. It is. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad it's done. I had a lot of fun doing it. But yeah, it's hard. And we hear you on having to listen, especially certain people. You know who really annoys me? I am so sorry. It's just a personal thing, but I'm watching. I was rewatching the hearing for Chad and Lori Daybell's murder trial that's coming up supposedly in April. And so I was watching the preliminary hearing. Chad Daybell's lawyer is just like like hands on chalkboard kind of thing. Thank you, Sandra. Appreciate it. I really believe now that Wendi had Jeff in mind for the murder agenda. That's interesting. Yes, I'm from Wisconsin. Even though I've been in Southern California for over 40 years, the more I speak with people from Wisconsin, especially this time of year, the more I sound like it. That's okay. Thank you. Jeffrey under perjury charges. I would doubt that, Cliff. I haven't heard that, but perjury very rarely gets charged, and I can't imagine why that would be the case, but let us know where you heard that. That would be a big surprise. And Cliff, if you do have information on that, what do you think his false statement was? I would be really interested in more on that, but I would really, really be surprised. He's kind of a star witness in this case, so I can see why he was probably advised not to participate in the Apple show too. Oh, I'm so glad they haven't burst. 20 gallons, lots of pets. Oh, I am so glad you got your water and they didn't burst. Yeah, we don't like rumors. So if you're going to suggest something, it's probably a good idea that you use sources. But if it's invalid, okay. There we go. Jackson Rip Holmes said it. Well, what are his sources then? Oh, and Sandra says that Wendi was mad because Dan had a new love in his life. I'm sure she was not a fan. She seems like she covers some, and we're talking about we're talking about Dan Markell's girlfriend at the time of his death. Had to have been so devastating for her to go through this. I lost my love tragically in a moment in a skiing accident. I will never be the same. And when you have a love that's growing and you are looking for your future together, this is really, never talked about enough about what Amy Adler must have gone through with the loss of her love, Dan Markell. I always mention friends and family and loved ones of Dan Markell because it's not just the family who took a big loss. And I did say this the other day, if all we get is perjury charges, at least let's get that. Jennifer loves Epstein. Yeah, I kind of take certain things with a grain of salt. So I try, like I said at the beginning of the video, not to love or hate or hero or villainize people. People are complex, and yeah. Did you say the other Epstein? Yes, Stephen Epstein. Okay. All right. Yes, the truth always comes out. Sorry, I didn't want to. I'm sorry, I didn't read that out loud. It was on the screen, and I just totally lost my mind right there. Okay. Lizzie Ball says Jeff probably doesn't want. Yeah, the truth will come out about Stephen Epstein and about everybody, really. Hopefully, God willing, the truth will come out. Jeff probably doesn't want to push his luck. That's right. He still may worry about repercussions. That's right. And he said it was chilling in his own words. So that's a good point. He got a good glimpse of not only who she was, but that family. Cliff. Oh, okay. Yeah. We're just not gonna, Jackson Holmes said it. I don't know what his sources are, so that doesn't really mean much to me. And without the sources of whomever you're talking about, there are just women that are like Wendi that always seem to slip by in life. And Downtown Wonder says she doesn't think we'll ever see behind bars. What? Perjury for, I'm not certainly who we're talking about. Are we talking about Jeffrey here? Nancy. I'm going through a lot of comments. Sorry about that. Yeah, I've never heard that rumor either. Thank you. Thank you. I'm just saying it. Thank you so much. I'm just saying it because my heart really goes out not only to Ruth, big time for Ruth, but also to Amy. It takes a long time to get over a shock like that. Somebody's healthy, they're young, they're robust, you have your future ahead of you, and what just happened? It's crazy. Thank you, Go Georgia. I try to. I'm trying. Can't please everybody, but I'm trying. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, so Helen knew. Who is Rip Holmes? I'm not sure where he gets his information. Yeah, he has a YouTube channel and he posts pretty much daily. And he's talking about Jeffrey LaCasse too. He follows me here. He's been pretty supportive. I'm not sure what he's talking about. That's interesting, Sonny. If it wasn't daylight, I think is what you're saying, Sonny, that he most likely would have they wouldn't have been able to identify the Prius. They might not have gotten all the footage from when they went to the ATM and the other security, the bus and that kind of thing. That's a really interesting point. All right. Okay, let's finish up. We're almost at the end. I think we're just going to get through his first interview.
Typically ask people, is there anything that you didn't disclose that maybe we didn't ask that you think is of note or is important? Because a lot of times you've thought about this just as much as we have.
That's all
I
I
mean,
thought
you
about
got a
it.
whole trip to think
Yeah.
about and analyze
Yeah.
all this stuff.
It's a pretty screwed up family.
But I'm trying to, everybody's probably in the same brainwave. For murder?
Doesn't seem likely to me.
No, but I'm asking your opinion, not.
I can't see the parents being involved. I got the email and I thought of Charlie within a couple moments.
Okay.
Again, just want to say, boom. Okay, couldn't resist.
That's what I thought of.
Charlie personally or Charlie hiring somebody?
Hiring somebody. No way, Charlie. No way.
Can't?
Wouldn't do it.
Couldn't pull the trigger?
I don't know about that. I don't know him that well. I was telling him I used to work juvenile justice a little bit in forensic psychiatry. He gave me the creeps. But I could see him hiring. I could see him. You don't follow the rules, man. I mean, that's how he lives his life. Goes to South America, sees prostitutes. I mean, he does his own thing.
Is he married?
No, he's got 3 girlfriends at all times.
Okay.
Rotates them, and they don't know each other exists, and that's not a crime.
Right.
But the ease with which he did it was no empathy for other people. That's
Kind of a deceitful person.
No empathy for other people. Now, it's interesting he's saying that he doesn't think Charlie could do it, but kind of backtracked on that a little bit. But interestingly, because we have learned that Charlie had a lot of guns in his home and he was armed to the tooth and he was ready to go out shooting supposedly, but he didn't. So it's kind of interesting. But again, he only knew so much, right? But he is talking now here about character, all about character.
To start with?
Sure. The whole family, really.
Okay.
And I just have this, I guess, everything that you didn't ask, and I said it before, I'll just say it one more time. When I looked at that agenda, when I started poking around, when I started looking at my calendar and examining Wendy's behavior on this kind of stuff, I don't think Wendy would do this. I don't think she's capable. No way. I mean, but there could be people you don't even know about unless you investigate very closely, would be my guess. Because there's some weird patterns of behavior when she's in South Florida. I don't know if you know how often she's gone there, but I have it on my calendar. And it is like 30-40% of the time she's not at work, she's in South Florida.
Where's the kids? Down there with her? Or?
Well, like when Danny has them from a week, she'll take them with them, she'll drive. Okay. But it's like, it's a big problem in our relationship. Like when she's got time off, I want to spend it with her, she's in South Florida. So, I don't know.
All right.
What do you think of anything else? Just give me 1 second. And I even wonder about another guy in town. I mean, there's just been so much deceit that I wouldn't be shocked. I was telling him she has a lot of free time. Teaches 4 hours a week. Other than that, she's on her own schedule.
Okay.
So.
Well, that's enough for today.
Okay, great.
If there's something else comes up, give Corey a call, or
I will.
we might have to call you back.
Call me back if you need me.
Okay, buddy. Good to meet you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right, I'll walk you down.
Okay, great.
Okay, so there we have it. The first interview, which is shortly after Dan's murder. There will be 2 more with Jeffrey LaCasse at the Tallahassee Police Department. Whether he spoke to them more than that, we don't know, but we know of these 3, and thankfully they have been available. Thankfully for giving me permission to share these videos to Mentour Lawyer. James, thank you so much. And with that, any final thoughts, anyone? Most of this isn't news. This isn't news. This is not new things here. It's reminders. My feeling is let the words of individuals who spoke to the police speak for themselves so that I can be in a better state personally for when the trials come up. And it's also good to get reminders of some of these things, because even if we saw these interrogation videos once or twice before, we pick up on new things each time as humans. So that's kind of cool. So thank you, everyone, so much for being here. Helen, I think we're referring to something that we probably shouldn't be referring to. So we're just going to let that one go. Yeah. And in addition, it's very true that Jeffrey LaCasse was a victim in this case. As well. He wasn't part of the crime in any way. And that is, you're very welcome, Lady Cymbeline. Aw, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, Judy, believe it. We cannot wait till we see our favorite witness again. That's right. All right. Well, with that, everyone, I hope you have a great night. I appreciate your participating in your comments, because I learned so much from you and you're keeping me on my game. And yes, I try very hard to see all sides of things, and I'm not perfect. No one's perfect. And hey, with that, you all have a good night. And I'm going to try to power through all of Jeff's interrogation before the end of the year so I can move on to something else at the beginning of the year. So if you have free time, I'll be here and you can always replay it later. But with that, I will say goodbye for now.